You'll also probably stop at the Cold Hollow Cider Mill, and there you will most certainly meet Eric Chittenden.
You know what it says? It says, I got squeezed at the Cold Hollow Cider Mill. You know what we do that? We give you a squeeze. Sure. Our whole objective in the cider mill is to involve the public in the processing of fresh apple cider, and that includes from the time the apples are dumped into the hopper and ground up until the time they can enjoy samples of the product. And the apples are ground up to a fine mash, and once they're ground up, they're pumped into nylon claws, and they're pressed under about 100 tons of pressure. Our particular cider mill is built in 1920 and is capable of making about 700 gallons an hour.
Up north of Waterbury, just out of Stowe, is Mount Mansfield. It's the highest peak in Vermont. Here you can take a drive to the top and visit an alpine landscape. And you can get one of the best panoramas in the state. North of the mountain is Smuggler's Notch, which earned its name in the colonial period. The road through Smuggler's Notch is rather narrow and is only open in warm weather. North of the Notch, you connect to Route 100 again and go on up through the Northeast Kingdom to end in Newport. Some people like to turn around here and do it all over again. There's not a long wait from the turning of the leaves to the coming of the snows. And with winter comes Vermont's most lucrative season, ski season. The state has over 24 ski areas, and the industry was practically born in Vermont. In 1934, outside Woodstock, they erected the first power ski lift in the United States. From this early beginning, Vermont has built the biggest ski industry in the Northeast. It was the Stowe area that became the first real skiing mecca in the country. And by the early 1930s, intrepid skiers were climbing Mount Mansfield and screaming down a set of trails cut specifically for skiing. One of the most famous of these was the nosedive, off the nose at Mount Mansfield. At first, these skiers had to walk up the mountain to ride it down. But in 1938, the area installed the East's first chairlift. Today, the Stowe area and Mount Mansfield are still considered world-class resorts. The trails on Mount Mansfield and Spruce Peak hold a special place in the mythology of world-class skiing. There's still the nosedive, as well as the National and the Star, and many other trails that have challenged skiers for over half a century. The area is large enough to accommodate all levels of skiing. And by springtime, there's a more convivial atmosphere on the top of the mountain. For many people, Stowe conjures up the images of a perfect Vermont small town, backed by its quiet mountains. It's a place for more than skiing, and the area provides a whole range of winter activities to delight the intrepid. There's everything from dog sled racing to miles of cross-country skiing. Stowe attracts an international set. Perhaps its best-known immigrants were the singing Trapp family, made famous by the sound of music. They built the Trapp family lodge, now run by the youngest son, Johannes von Trapp.
I think what brought my family to Stowe was the combination of a lovely village with a church with a tall steeple, Mount Mansfield with its alpine feeling, the patchwork of meadows, forests that is very reminiscent of the countryside around Salzburg. I had always enjoyed cross-country skiing, and it seemed to me that we enjoyed it so much that there just had to be a way to present this to the public so that it would enjoy it also. In the fall of 1968, we laid out and opened the first commercial cross-country facility where a customer could come in and rent cross-country ski equipment and get a lesson and also ski. And it turned out to have a much broader appeal than I had thought.
Although the Trapps had the first commercial cross-country area, Vermont is now loaded with them. And if you want a beautiful way to discover wintertime Vermont, there's nothing like the joys of cross-country skiing. There are also free trails just off the side of the road in the national forest and state parks. It's a great way to tour in winter. Of course, the glamour sport for Vermont is still downhill skiing. There are 24 alpine ski areas statewide. There's famous areas like Mount Stowe, Sugarbush, Okemo, just to name a few. And while these are all important areas, the biggest is Killington. The Killington area is an industry in itself. It's a mega ski scene. The complex is by far the largest in the eastern U.S., and it's not one or two mountains, but 6 separate peaks with an interconnected system of 107 trails stretching over 75 miles. This is skiing with a disco beat. It's power skiing. It's hot dogging and fighting the mountain. Killington is one of the most popular areas with the city folk from New York and Boston, and it's jumping all winter. Families come with kids, and there's a lot to look at on the slopes. Like most major Vermont areas, there's extensive snowmaking to ensure skiing in all kinds of years. For those of us with a less aerobic bent, there are simpler ways to experience winter. First of all, simply driving around the small towns provides a different point of view. There's always a Christmas card landscape. And an even better way to leisurely see the scene is by sleigh. Paul Kendall of the Green Mountain Horse Association in South Woodstock would be happy to take you.
My family has been here since 1794. We've been on the same piece of land since 1839, so I guess that sort of qualifies us as natives. The Kidron Valley is special because the little river here is called the Kidron, and a Methodist minister came here in 1848 and decided that it was far too pretty an area to just be a south branch or something, so he renamed it the Kidron. Certainly like the changing seasons. I like the people. I like the hills. I like the openness of the land. If I want to ride my horse across my neighbor's land, 9 times out of 10, I know he's not going to care. I just kind of like what I do, that's all.